Non-Americans of Reddit, what's the biggest story in your country right now? Venezuela, the country with the biggest oil reserves, is about to shut down 3 refineries due to lack of crude oil to process. SMH. Iranian here. The government wants us to support domestic production, even though most of it is hot garbage. They've already started passing some shitty laws banning certain imports. If they want this so much, why don't they at least try to make good products? Community, bro, I swear people will buy products if they are good. No need for all this shady shit. Slovakia, a journalist and his fiancée were murdered in their own house. He was working on an expose about the Italian mafia meddling with our politicians. Nationwide protests, core politicians stepping down in response. More of the evidence is coming out. Journalists are working nationwide to bring his legacy to light. Newest prime minister seems even worse than what we already had. Generally, not a good time to be a Slovak or Slovak politician right about now. Denmark, on the 10th, the government is going to lock out basically every single worker in the state, employed by the state. The whole country's probably gonna shut down for some time. This is because of disagreements about salary between the government and the unions. To clarify, it is basically every worker in the state, not literally all workers. Necessary staff for hospitals and police are of course still going to work. Also, it only affects workers in the state, i.e. private companies are unaffected, although they may still be inconvenienced by the lack of public transport, etc. Still, we are talking about 400,000 plus workers. Austria, former government established a law to ban smoking from restaurants, bars, etc. The new voted government abolished said law before it came to effect, although the majority of the population was against the abolition. Egypt, the election. Apparently the guy running against Sisi voted for him in the booth because he couldn't see his name and not vote for him. This whole election is a sham. I'm not Egyptian, I just live here. Belgium. Today there is apparently a strike. Taxis are blocking the entrances and exits of Brussels. In reality there are only around 650 taxis, so only a few sides of Brussels are blocked. And because everybody knew it, they took the train or chose to work from home. So I'm not sure about the impact. The taximen are protesting against Uber because Uber drivers don't pay taxes and licenses that other taxi drivers are paying, so this is disloyal competition. Last week's huge story was a huge scandal of a company called Veviba that was selling meat that had been frozen for years and obviously rotting to Easter countries. Disgusting. Update, I meant Easter egg countries. But I love Easter eggs and I want chocolate. Wow. Uber wants to come to our province, Manitoba, Canada, but our insurance is public and didn't allow for it. They lobbied the government, who in turn caved, dissolved the taxicab board that oversaw all taxes, and changed insurance. But Uber said it wasn't good enough and said they wouldn't come if they didn't get exactly what they want. This all while taxis were protesting, suing the government, petitioning, and striking. 2 or 3 smaller companies have since taken the opportunity the government has provided and are making bank. Our taxes here were absolutely horrible because they could be. 2 companies ran the board and they allowed their drivers to get away with everything except murder. Glad that's over. Italy just made the elections. The 2 main parties, who for months have talked badly about each other, are about to ally themselves to make the government. Germany, not exactly now but rather a few weeks back but still ongoing. A male nurse murdered approximately 200 people by injection medication to perform CPR to show how good he was at it. Countless graves have been exhumed and investigation is still not finished. Body count may even be significantly higher. These are just the ones known about. Germany, Karls Puigdemont, former Catalan president, arrested. Discussions about the obligation to extradite to Spain. Maldives here. Lot of politicians getting arrested over stupid charges, including former president dictator of 30 years also jailed. Cutting down trees in the name of development, to just name a few things. TBH, go to Twitter and check out #MALDIVESINCRISIS, there's a lot of drama there. New Zealand tried to find some Russian spies to expel, but apparently we aren't important enough to have any. Netherlands. To be honest, nothing too special. We had local elections last week and we beat Portugal 3-0. Local elections were mostly as expected, the most notable change being that the new party on the left is cannibalizing the others. Oh, and Turkey allegedly caught one of our spies, who is on his way back home now. Edit. Also a referendum about the new surveillance law. It has some necessary updates, but dubious impartial oversight over who can be spied on and long data retention terms. The result was almost a 50-50 split, so the government is likely to make a token change and keep it as it is. Venezuela is quite literally falling apart. In Finland, a singer was caught with crystal meth for the second time. Terrorist attack with hostage crisis in one of Treb's supermarket near Carcassonne, south of France, last Friday. A Lieutenant Colonel, Arnaud Beltrame, switched itself with the woman the terrorist was using as a human shield. Beltrame managed to keep the special forces what was going on inside the supermarket, and thanks to that, they could launch an assault on the guy. When he decided to shoot Beltrame, they killed the guy. Beltrame died the next day. Tomorrow there will be a national homage to Beltrame. 1 month ago, an investigative journalist Jan Kuciak and his fiancée Martina Kusnirova were murdered in their home. He was investigating our main governing party ties to Italian mafia. Whole month was about this. Huge protests every Friday and calling our corrupted prime minister off. Robert Fico, who is also connected to the article Kuciak was writing. Now we are voting gambling. ACA government agreed to Assembly 1 after our president shot down the previous suggestions. There wasn't official public voting. A new government, which looks entirely shitty because it's still the same party. And we have a new prime minister with an Italian surname, who is obvious puppet for the one we just got rid of. This thing doesn't happen here in Slovakia. We are super enraged. The protests to remove the Prime Minister Fico and Kalinak, the Minister of the Interior, were huge, the biggest since 1989. Edit. Not nerded. Edit. Added Martina's name as she needs to be remembered too. They were both only 27. Australian cricket team can't play by the rules. Children are getting abducted here in the Philippines. People say it's organ harvesting, and it's honestly quite scary. I'm seriously surprised the government is mum about this. Kids, teens, and elderly are being abducted either for organs or to beg on the streets. My grandmother had dementia and was a wanderer. She was lost for 3 weeks. We found her face beaten beyond recognition, and the people who lead her to us was after the reward money. That was 15 years ago. The government is not doing anything about this. Senegal. Several kids have been murdered and decapitated in different towns by unknown persons. This type of thing does not happen here. Watching BBC Breakfast News, and number one story is countries around the world expelling Russian diplomatic staff. St. Lucia. I hadn't read any news about my country in a while before this post, so it's currently 0522, and I'm weeping in the dark. Our 2-story cultural center has burned to the ground on Sunday. Priceless artifacts, paintings, documents, projects turned to ash. The director, Patrick Anthony, came on a news clip and said, "Remember, the Folk Research Center started Jaun and Quill, our cultural heritage month, where we dress traditionally, revive dance and music, and play traditional games, and Jaun and Quill cannot be burned by flames." I'm absolutely beside myself with sadness. Go to your local museums, record stories of your old folks, get those old family photos and scan them into Google. Do anything to preserve your history, because it might be taken from you tomorrow. Sweden. A psychopathic Danish inventor allegedly murdered a Swedish journalist. Edit. Yes, the story is really old. It's the trial that is getting the media's attention. Malaysia general election is coming. Government is all don't spread fake news and stuff. Pretty ridiculous. France. Either the terrorist attack in a supermarket or this old lady who survived the Holocaust, killed in her own home because she was Jewish. In 2018. Edit. Killed not kill. Switzerland. It's pretty quiet here. The only recent thing was a forex murderer was convicted, but that's about it really. Venezuela. My mom in the US sent my aunt $50, and because inflation is so high the amount it converts to in bolivars through the black market is higher than she's ever had in her account. We are talking about someone who's gone to college and whose husband's family owns a very successful company. The money doesn't even last 2 weeks. Just imagine how bad it has to be for people who work for minimum wage. Edit. Cause someone asked for explanation. Say in the US with $50 you can live off of mediocre products for a couple of weeks from the supermarket by buying the cheapest products when it comes to food and toiletries. In Venezuela, because every basic human necessity is so scarce, like toilet paper, shampoo, soap, etc., it drives the already rising prices even higher. So hypothetically, say a loaf of French bread costs $2 at Walmart, it might cost $20 there because the makers can't find the ingredients at a decent price. Since the inflation in the US is somewhat controlled, it makes human necessities stay at a steady price. But since in Venezuela people can't convert bolivars to dollars and dollars to bolivars at the government rate, which is 8 bol for every $1 hike, but since that's only available for PPL aligned with the government, PPL instead have to go to the black market exchange, which is currently at 235k bolivars for $1, which will continue to rise as the crisis continues. This is a lot of info, and I may not be the best person to explain everything because I haven't lived there in many years, but I'll be happy with myself if I make it more known to PPL in other countries that things are terrible and will only get worse in Venezuela. Australia. Our cricket team are a bunch of dirty cheats. Romania attempting to reunite with Moldova. No, it probably won't happen because of the Russians in Transnistria. India. 39 Indians got killed by terrorists in Iraq. Government promises to get the bodies back to India as soon as possible. Haha, I have a good one. I'm in Kenya. An opposition leader guy was deported to Canada some time back because of shit-talking the government and incitement. So he came back to the country yesterday and denied government request to get a 6-month visa into the country. He is Kenyan by birth, but apparently is a citizen of Canada. He was roughed up by the police and was about to be sent to Dubai. He refused and caused major drama in the plane and in the airport. No one knows where he is now. Don't mess with the government, yo. Edit. His name is Miguna edit 2. He was deported to Dubai, but since he has no papers will most probably be sent back to Canada. Russia. Huge fire in mall that took more than 60 lives. It's morning through all county. With our corruption situation, it was inevitable to happen somewhere. There are horrible videos of people jumping from 4th floor. Thanks Putin and government he organized and sustain. Not technically in a country, but the ship I'm on in international waters, Pacific Ocean, is a buzz after we just saw some Russian dude and an alpaca headed north on a small boat. Meanwhile in Canada, one Doug Ford, brother of Rob Ford, a Toronto mayor whose term in office was plagued with scandal, has now won the Ontario Progressive Conservative (PC) party leadership and is poised to supplant the provincial Liberal Party government according to preliminary polls. Ontario has been a staunch Liberal stronghold since 2003. 2. Bruce MacArthur, a landscaper by trade who worked in and around Toronto, has been accused of murdering 6 men, potentially more, who had disappeared from or had ties to Toronto's gay village. Given the similarities between his victims and the uniformity of their murders, it would not be incorrect to call MacArthur a serial killer. Edit. A pending disclaimer. No, I don't think Canada and Ontario are one and the same, or that Ontario is more newsworthy than other provinces, something a few have inferred from my focus on Ontario. My rationale was that Canada is massive. There's probably someone from those provinces who can offer a better perspective on those stories than I can. Plus, as far as I know, there isn't a rule that each country gets only one post. It'd be more productive and informative to write your own post talking about news I overlooked than leaving a sulky comment. Thank you, and have a nice day. South Africa are corrupt, thieving, rapist, low-life scum excuse of a former president is finally facing the music. He will appear in court for 16 counts for his general tomfoolery. It might be 9 years overdue, but it's a start.